Please be seated. Some years ago, I was meeting up with a friend for a coffee date. It was Good Friday, and he was a very lapsed Roman Catholic. But out of a sense of kindness, he wished me a happy Good Friday. Then he became self-conscious about this greeting. Is it Happy Good Friday, or is this Good Happy Friday? We both started to laugh. It was hard to imagine anything appropriate to say to someone on this day, a day when we must contend with the reality of the crucifixion. Is it really a good thing? Is it really a happy occasion to commemorate the day when jealousy, suspicion, greed, pride, anger, fear, resentment, and hatred got the upper hand and resulted in the public execution of God? It doesn't really sound all that good, does it? But actually, this is a good day. I don't know about happy, but it is a good day. Good because this is God's day. This is the day when God, in the man Jesus, listened deeply to the call put on him to confront the earthly powers of pride, jealousy, tyranny, and bullying, and resisted that temptation of violence to meet it with violence. He did not. This is the day, so many centuries ago, God the Son met every single one of those egocentric sins, absorbed all of it into his physical being, and took those things to be nailed with him on the cross. It was this Good Friday when God the Father became intimately at one with the grieving and the suffering of the world, knowing the anguish of death, the tears falling from the cheeks of the grieving and the dispossessed. It is at this moment that God, the Holy Spirit, clings and holds together the God who is in the crucified place and the God who weeps with the women on the cross, to comfort both in this excruciating moment, fulfilling the promise that God, our Trinitarian God, is never far from us. For anyone who has ever been the victim of a bully or been pushed to the margins of society or felt like an other or a less than of any kind, this Friday is our day. On this day, Jesus gives us one more lesson, one more takeaway that's important for our lives. It's okay to cry. It's perfectly reasonable to scream out to God, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The author of our letter to the Hebrews in the 4th chapter says, "In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death." Jesus lifts his voice in prayer because he trusts that even in this bitter moment, at a time when his friends have all run away, God the Father will hear his cry. That is the level of trust he has in God, knowing that somehow, in whatever way it will happen, God is going to deliver him through this pain. It's unfortunate that in these polarized times in which we're living right now, that phrase, thoughts and prayers, has seemed to be rendered empty by our political leaders who refuse to act on those words. Many of my friends roll their eyes when they hear thoughts and prayers. But it is in prayer that our great high priest Jesus demonstrates an unwavering belief that God will hear him. And as we know, God did respond in the resurrection. Prayer works. It opens us to a dialogue with God and gives God that opportunity to respond as we need, not with lightning bolts, but with a shift, a change in us when the Spirit intercedes to help us. I recently shared with the Inquiry 101 group about a time when I was advocating for the adoption of a broader human rights ordinance at my county commission meeting. The opponents were hurling all sorts of ugly accusations against people who were LGBTQ. I had my Book of Common Prayer with me at the meeting, and as the people expressed their ugliness, I opened my prayer book. And I prayed for deliverance from hardness of heart, from the need to be cruel, show hatred, or exact revenge. And I prayed the same for my opponents. Now, a TV crew wanted to interview me, which I did reluctantly. They also interviewed someone from the other side, as they should do. And when I saw the story later that night, I was shocked. Not by what either of us had to say. I was shocked by our demeanors as we appeared on TV. Even though I hadn't wanted to go on camera, because I truly do hate television cameras like the plague. I can't stand them. I appeared very calm. I spoke plainly, without any bite or sarcasm. My opponent, on the other hand, was visibly angry and aggressive, almost like a barking dog. It was striking. Prayer shaped and formed my response in a situation where I could easily have dug in my heels and been just as hateful as this other person. And I felt compassion for them, even though I didn't agree with them. So much anger was flowing out of them in that interview, and it was shocking. Jesus' final words in John's Gospel, "It is finished," says so much. Jesus has finished the lesson of how love refuses to give in to fear. Despite the jeering, the taunts, and the abuse, Jesus fixed his sights on love. He prayed to that love. And that love, which at first appears that it has lost, has actually won. It is won when we, who stand before the cross, can see in that instrument of shame the promise of a life resurrected. It's one when we commit to live in love, turn to prayer, to seek the strength and courage that comes from God when we are facing tyrants and bullies in this world. Good Friday, God's Friday, shows us one more time that with God, all things are possible. In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.